This is John for Global Traveler. Today, I have the pleasure of talking travel, softball, photography with ace photographer and longtime friend, Jade Hewitt. How
How
are you,
you doing
Jade?
today, sir?
I am great. It's so good to see you. Haven't seen you
It's
since
great to see you.
softball. Are you ready for the next season of softball?
I'm ready for the next season. I'm ready to roll on over to the autograph lines and see you standing there, always greeting everybody with a smile. Cause literally we can get into it, but since my first season, you're one of the first people I remember from my first year. So
Exactly. Yeah, we've never had a chance to really talk, but we're gonna to talk in depth, I should say. But we're gonna take care of that right now, actually.
awesome.
Let's start with I know you went to Millsap, so you were a softball player. So give me the scouting report on Jay Hewitt, softball player.
Oh man, the most underwhelming hitter probably that's ever played D3. I think I drove my coach mad for 4 years. So anything that was kind of high and inside, I was probably swinging. If you threw me a changeup on the outside corner of the plate, I was probably coming out of my cleats, swinging and missing. So not too great of a hitter, pretty average. Unfortunately, my two roommates in college were like led our conference at hitting. So I was just trying to be them and couldn't be them. So but I could play defense all day. I think at one point I asked my coach, can I not hit and just play defense? So catcher and third base, loved catching, loved being able to kind of control the field. So definitely a defensive minded player all the way.
All right. Hey, you just summed up my career, except I never played college ball.
There you
Mine's
go.
limited to rec leagues, and now it's limited to 55 and older rec leagues, but well, that's not here,
There
there.
you go.
So when did you develop your love for photography, and when did you start to realize that you can make a career of it?
I started with video first, and it's really crazy that you asked that question because I'm kind of home for a couple weeks and I was going through a whole bunch of home video that we had, and I must have been in the 6th grade, and I
Wow.
found this old VHS tape of me directing a film with four of my friends out at our sports park about like a Gatorade drink or something, and you hear me behind the camera going like action in my little squeaky grade voice. And so video and telling stories and directing, I guess, was kind of really young and very informal with my dad's VHS camera. And then somewhere around my senior-ish year in high school was when I kind of started a business and said, okay, I can do sports and film at the same time. Now, if anyone saw the footage from my senior year in high school, it would be the most mortifying thing ever. But pretty early on, I was like, I really like these two things. And then, as I got older, was like, let's officially merge these two things. And here we are.
Well, then you officially merged them. You might have officially merged them earlier, but one of your at least officially first gigs was a photographer for the NPF, the now defunct National Pro
Yeah.
Fast. How did that come to be?
I would definitely consider that my first, quote adult job. But what's crazy is that, that was in 2015. And I can remember they announced the team and it's, Dallas. I'm in Louisiana, so it's not that far. And I cold called Kevin Shelton and was like, please, I'm begging you, hire me. And Kevin was like, we literally need to like pick our team uniforms. Like I can't focus on media right now. Like I'm not focusing on Instagram right now. And so then they opened up an intern program and I applied to be an intern. So I ended up being, the only media intern. And that it was from that point on, it was off to the races with that first summer. And I have some of my best memories from that summer of my whole career, hands down.
And you've been a photographer for both leagues with softball. You've done it for many years now. How do you? And I love softball, you know that. But how do you take pictures and make them unique? And so it's not just there's another pitcher throwing another pitch to the catcher. There's another
Mhm.
batter swinging. How do you keep coming up with fresh angles?
It's hard. It's very hard. About a year or so ago, I went into season and I said, you know what? I'm going to challenge myself this season to take a photo that I've never taken before. And like, I could tell that to a friend and they're like, that doesn't sound that hard. But when you've shot thousands of softball games, there's not really a whole lot of spots on the field I haven't taken a photo from. So I've kind of put that challenge out with the other sports in AU as well. And that's been a really great opportunity to challenge myself and to try to kind of keep working and just keep finding new angles. I found one of Aubrey 2 years ago catching, where I was right behind her in her throwdown. I got one of Rachel, I think last year, where I was laying on home plate and she threw the ball over me. So
Oh,
like
wow.
putting my life in Rachel Garcia's hands, but she was throwing a rise ball. So I was like, I feel confident in this. So yeah, just making it a personal challenge to try and find new angles. And there's nothing more rewarding than when you finally get it. Absolutely.
Now they're going to be at Rosemont again. They're going to play the short season in Rosemont, and they're going to play the full season, which I
Yeah.
could not be happier about.
Right.
Does the fact that they're again playing in Rosemont, so all your pictures are at that stadium, beautiful stadium as it is, but is that more of a challenge for you, or is that more of a comfort zone?
It's a blessing and a curse, definitely, because you have those moments where you're like, I'm so sick of this field. And then you have moments where you go, oh, I have an idea. Well, I can sit in this idea for this whole slate of weekend games, knowing that I have all of next weekend to go up top above the back of the stands and get something shooting down. So when you're somewhere for longer, it definitely gives you plenty more options and more chances to get it right. Because, I don't get it right on the first time probably ever. And that's interesting because like I just came from the volleyball tour where you're at one place and then you move on. And so it's very different. I got frustrated on volleyball because I was like trying to work out the kinks of this certain volleyball gym. And by the time you figured it out, the game is over and you're never going back. So AU definitely gives me the full range of shooting, kind of opportunities.
And have you ever gotten so involved in the taking of the picture that you might have gotten involved in a play that you didn't intend to?
I have missed plenty of home runs. Especially if a team is hot, let's say, Gwen Svetkus gets up and hits one out and I take an amazing photo and I'm in the dugout showing my content friends and then, Sachel Palacios comes up next and hits one out and I'm just sitting at the end going, sorry, so it definitely happens.
Now, I have to ask you about this. I'm certainly a lot older than you. I've been collecting baseball cards, especially tops, for years. How cool is it for you to me, it'd be like a dream come true, How cool is it for you to take pictures, not only of four tops, but of the inaugural set for tops of women's sports?
Yeah, you can probably see this big dorky goofy grin on my face because I mean truly, when so far when I look back at my career, the Olympics, going to Worlds with USA in 2018 and tops. I mean, those are my top three. I grew up collecting baseball cards. I was a kid that was in the Mark McGuire, Sammy Sosa, Ken Griffey Jr., Craig Biggio, Big Puma kind of era. So I love baseball cards. And so to be able to say that we're the first like female deck of any kind is like unbelievable. My mom knows nothing about sports and about AU, but she knows that she will tell everybody that her baby girl is the first photographer, so it's super special. I have an obscene amount of tops cards at this house, and it's really awesome. And like going after games and seeing a little girl with her card or with her binder of cards, I'll just cry on the spot. I'll just be like, it's just the coolest thing ever.
So when you're not taking pictures, I should say, but you're on the AU field, does the itch ever come back, and do you ever take advantage of, maybe a few swings in the batting cage?
I have before. I have. I've taken a bunch of just like defensive reps before, and actually kind of a fun fact is usually on our last game night of the weekend, so like on a Sunday night in Rosemont, when everything is done, the content team, we all bring our gloves and bats and we'll go out on the field and we'll just kind of play sandlot until we're too tired and we all need to go to bed. So I've gotten my fair share of reps on that field, and I thoroughly enjoy just playing catch, like playing catch with Aubrey Monroe, who's a good friend, playing catch with Sam Fisher, that's just really special and really, really cool. So I'm not completely retired just yet, but if AU ever drafted me, my approach would just be to get the bunt down. And that's about all that I could do.
Hey, the bunt pretty much won the game yesterday at Loyola. So
yeah, so there you go.
There's nothing wrong with a well-placed bunt.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little travel. I know you've been all over the world. You've photographed all over the world. Could you tell us some of the cool places, or maybe like underrated cool places where you've been?
Oh man. I mean, Japan has kind of its, nicer fields that the pros play on, but I've gotten to be on some of just Japan's like regular old fields, and that's a really cool experience. To be like in all these different settings over in Japan. I've been some that's been at like official like US type of facilities, and some that's just like a playground field and kind of everything in between. So shooting in Japan's been cool, and it's also just a different kind of heat over there. I mean, I'm from South Louisiana. I can do hot, but Japan hot is like absolutely a whole nother ball game.
Wow.
So every time I think of shooting over there, I just think of standing in the camera well, just absolutely feeling like I'm going to melt into the turf. Um, so Japan's been really cool. But then, like when we were on tour with USA in 2020 and in 2021, getting to go to all the different universities and colleges, and San Diego was beautiful last year, all the palm trees. And so, yeah, I would say San Diego is kind of one of the more magical ones I've gotten to shoot at.
Is there any place that you want to shoot? Is there any bucket list places for a Jade Hewitt media to capture?
That's a really great question. You're like, that's what I do. I think it would be great. I mean, like, Nebraska just sold out their football stadium, right, to play women's volleyball in. So I think it's not something that's completely out of the realm to maybe have a softball game at like Fenway, or, that's kind of like way down the pipeline. But I think that would be really cool. But nowhere else that I can really come to mind. Also playing D3, I wasn't like I didn't go to a lot of D1s and go visit all these places. So I don't have a ton of experience with other colleges, but I would say maybe like a Fenway or something would be pretty sweet.
Well, that's hey, Fenway is beautiful.
Yeah.
And then Wrigley too. I have to
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I have to plug my own
Of
my feet
course.
here. Yeah.
Of course.
Do you have being all over the world and or even in just the U.S. You've done a lot of traveling. Do you have any travel tips, any travel advice from all your journeys?
That's a good one. Um, so when I travel, I normally have my camera backpack, which is like 30 pounds. It's obscene. I have a computer backpack on another shoulder, and then I have two full-sized suitcases. So I am just like weighed down by all of my things. Um, I would say I actually made a video about this once. On my camera backpack is a phone holster right on the shoulder, and it looks so dorky, but it's like so great because you'll be going through airports and all that, and you have your phone right here when I have like a million things around me. So that low pro phone holster, not an ad, but that thing is pretty awesome.
Hey, that's a great tip.
Yeah.
So a couple silly questions before we end. I read that you're a big fan of frozen yogurt. So what is your flavor of choice?
Gotta go original tart from Pinkberry. When
Oh,
I see a Pinkberry like at an airport, like I will run. It's the fastest I've run. So original tart with the chocolate chips, and you can't go wrong. Maybe a little bit of sprinkles because I'm 12. You really can't go
aren't we all?
wrong.
Exactly. And what do you tell people? I have total respect for your job, of course. What do you tell people who go like, "Wow, you got a great job. You just get to take pictures of athletes," without realizing the amount of work you do? I know you're at the games and I know you have fun. I see you, but I also see all the work you put in. How do you deal with those questions?
Well, I appreciate you saying that. That's actually very kind, someone that's in our community. It's just part of it. I get way too excited to go take photos. Like that overrides any type of like I have work to do. And that's kind of in work and outside of work. I did a photo shoot yesterday for CrossFit for a friend, and I get so excited. Like I came home, I was like, I'm gonna send these to you in maybe like a week, and then I come home and start editing because I legitimately am so excited. So, yeah, I would say when that kind of like fire and passion and drive to just get better and like shoot great stuff is at the forefront, you kind of can't go wrong. And my priority, no matter if NPF or AU or whatever, USA, my priority is really always the athletes for sure, and their well-being and making sure that they feel good and that they look good, and when you kind of have those things at the forefront, it never really feels like work. I say that when I go back to the hotel and it's like a Wednesday in the middle of the week and I'm like watching Harry Potter for the 14th time editing, maybe then it gets a little kind of tiring. But for the most part, like it really is. I really have the best job ever. Like 100%. It's the best job ever.
Well, speaking as a fan and as a friend, I appreciate everything you do out there. You bring fantastic photos. You bring them to life. You bring them to people who aren't necessarily at the game or people who are at the game. It's your fantastic photography really makes the games come alive, and I appreciate that. And I thank you for that.
Thank you.
Before I let you go, tell everybody where they can find out information about you, Jade Hewitt Media, anything else you want.
Just on the social, at Jade Hewitt Media on Twitter and Instagram. My website's www.jadehewittmedia.com. And I will say this, I really, really love when like high school, college, or like right out of college, young female shooters DM me with like questions about anything. Like I've had someone cold message me and be like, I'm at a shoot and I can't figure out my settings. And I've had plenty of girls message me that say, hey, I want to get in the space, or hey, like what's advice? And I will answer every single one of them from now until forever. So I feel like the women that have helped me get to where I am, and it's my job to keep that going and to help out, the girl that's 20 years old about to graduate, because in 10 years she's going to help out the girl that comes after her. So yeah, I really love engaging, and camera nerds, we'll talk about cameras to anybody. You could stop me on the street and I'll talk about gear with you. So
Well,
yeah,
you brought up a good point that I failed to mention. You do a lot of cool tips on your YouTube, which I think I'm not a photographer, I'm a hack, but you do a lot of cool tips on there free of charge, just you talking about it. And I think I enjoy them, and I'm sure as a photographer would really appreciate them. So I'm encouraging everyone to check you out on social media. Check out jadehewittmedia.com. You really are massively talented, and you're a really cool person. I appreciate
well,
you.
thank you.
And I look forward to seeing you in about 3 or 4 weeks out there on.
I know. Well, look, I gotta say before we hang up, when you look at the fans of, and I know you cover different sports and wrestling and celebrities and all that kind of stuff, but like when you look at the fans of our sport that have been there, that are athletes, every single one of them knows you by name. I mean, you're saying all these things, but there's absolutely something to be said about the fans and the people that are loyal and that commit their time and their energy and their resources to bettering women's sports. And there's not a whole lot of those people around, especially the ones that have really been around as long as you have. So, just as much as we try and do for this community, you're doing it for the community as well. And I think, absolutely. Look, I'm a fan. You're a fan and I'm a fan. I will always be a fan. And it's always good to see you over there in Chicago. Absolutely.
Jade, that's very kind of you, and I appreciate it. And with no disrespect to the other sports, softball really is my favorite.
I can't agree with that statement. I cannot say that you're correct, but you may or may not be right.
Appreciate it. Jade, thank you very much for your time, and we'll see you soon.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.